Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have joining us former D1 head coach Dan McHale. And Dan McHale grew up in Jersey and then came to the University of Kentucky. And his first year, he was a manager there under Tubby Smith. And guess what? They won the 1998 national title. He talks about all the pros he worked with, both in the coaching staff world, such as Frank Vogel, who won a national title or the world championship with the Lakers as their head coach. He worked with a bunch of pros there. And then he talks about senior year getting a job to be a graduate assistant for Rick Pitino when he took over the Louisville job. He also had stints at Seton Hall, at Minnesota, New Mexico, and he was the head coach at Eastern Kentucky. So we talk all about kind of what goes on behind the scenes, how he would recruit in today's day and age, how he would hire assistants, the best part of being a D1 coach, the most challenging part, players he missed on, players he really worked out great, what walk-ons do, and some of his best stories in that regard. And then we talk about recruiting and placement. And Dan has a company now where he's no longer coaching, but he's helping place kids in college, both in the D1 level, D3 level, JUCO level. And he reiterates what we say all the time. It's all about relationships. Right or wrong, it's all about relationships. And he's got a big black book. So if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe on all the major podcasting platforms and YouTube. And check the show notes below and see the information about Dan's company. It's very interesting if you want to look into potentially going straight to college. So stick around and enjoy this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast with former coach Dan McHale. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Cory Heitz.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting, like, oh, yeah, somebody wants me.
Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Cory, thanks for having me, man. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again, too. And walk me back. Where did you grow up and what got you into basketball?
Well, I grew up in Chatham, New Jersey, about 45 minutes outside of New York City, and was a decent little high school player, but knew at an early age I wanted to coach. My dad was a Division I player, really good basketball player at the Naval Academy, so it was always in my blood. But knowing at a young age I wanted to coach was an awesome feeling for me, and was fortunate to get accepted to the University of Kentucky. And I go on my visit, and I'm still figuring out: do I want to try to play small D3 basketball? Do I want to coach? And a young man by the name of Frank Vogel was a manager at Kentucky at the time. I remember sitting with him in the film room, and he said, if you want to coach, this is where you got to go. And little did I know that he'd go on to be the coach of the Lakers and win an NBA championship. And my coaching journey would take me to stops along the way in the Big East and the Big Ten and become a Division I head coach at Eastern Kentucky. It was an awesome experience for me, and I owe a lot of it to my roots growing up in New Jersey, but then my next life in Kentucky.
But when you're in Chatham, New Jersey, like, why was Kentucky on your radar? Was it because of the basketball and the opportunities you might have? Was it that specific?
Yeah, I mean, I was growing up in the mid '90s, right? I mean, Kentucky basketball, as you know, was rolling at that time, and Rick Pitino being an East Coast guy, and I used to watch him when he was coaching the Knicks when I was at a younger age. So him being at Kentucky was definitely a lure. But every kid wants to go right and work at the University of Kentucky for Rick Pitino. And I remember talking to some of my dad's friends. My dad had a good buddy in Lexington at the time and said, look, everybody wants to be a manager at Kentucky. I'm just being honest with you. And I said, well, not everybody's me. And I was able to kind of kick the door down. And Bill Kitely, the great Mr. Wildcat, gave me a chance as a young 17-year-old freshman. And even on my drive from New Jersey to Kentucky, my dad was driving me. He's like, are you sure you're going to be working with the team? I was like, Dad, I promise you. You know, this is they told me. And so sure enough, I saw my name on the door at Wildcat Lodge. And kind of the rest was history. And I was fortunate enough to Coach Pitino left to go to the Celtics, and I was fortunate enough to work for Tubby Smith as a freshman. And you remember that year in '98, we won the national championship, and got to go to the White House and meet the president, and it was just a whirlwind. And I remember saying, "Oh, this basketball, this is easy. This is awesome. This is what you always do, right?" And everyone looked at me like, "Yeah, welcome. You had a great freshman year," and it was awesome. It was memorable, and very thankful.
Yeah, what a freshman! I mean, really, it's hard to like get back to that level again unless you win another national title in some program. So you I don't know if that's a good thing or bad.
Yeah,
that's the top, but
I remember talking with Tubby a couple years later. He goes, "Man, they want to run me out of town. I think I won too early here." So that stuck with me as a young manager turned into coach. The type of business it is. The highs are high, the lows are low, but very thankful for all the stops along the way. And like I touched upon, I went from Kentucky. Actually, Coach Pitino had then left the Celtics and got the Louisville job. And that was kind of the same conversation. I was a senior living in the Wildcat Lodge. And everyone said, everyone wants to go work for Rick. He's back in college basketball. And I said, you know what? Not everyone's me. I told him my story about why I came to Kentucky and had a couple connections to him and his staff, and was fortunate to get hired at Louisville April of my senior year, living in the Wildcat Lodge, which was a very memorable month because I remember he got the job. I showed up on campus. He said, "You start tomorrow." And I said, "Coach, I haven't graduated yet." And he said, "You start tomorrow." So it was one of those deals where I was leaving the Wildcat Lodge, kind of covered up Louisville gear, making the hour drive to Louisville, doing the workouts with the players, trying to figure out my class schedule, coming back at night, having the Kentucky players give me a hard time for walking back into the lodge wearing Louisville gear. So it was a fun month. And then obviously I graduated in May and it took off from there.
Awesome. So let's back up. At Kentucky, you're working for Tubby in that program, with Sean Brown, all the NBA players that came through. Like, what are some big takeaways from that time with Tubby and that national powerhouse program that you still use or you incorporated when you throughout your coaching career?
Yeah, Tubby taught me a lot. I mean, every coach I've worked for, you try to take something from it. I just remember Coach Smith was, thrown into the pressure cooker and won the national championship and was able to really keep Kentucky basketball to where Coach Pitino had left it. It was just an amazing experience to learn from him and his staff about, everybody coaches differently. He found his own voice, right? He was replacing Rick Pitino. It was a big deal at that time. And he knew who he was. Obviously, he was one of Coach Pitino's assistants, but he became his own man. And that's one thing that always stuck with me. Wherever you're going to go, obviously take bits and pieces, but be who you are, be comfortable in your own skin. And obviously a great recruiter, great program developer, a great mentor to a lot of the kids in the program. So a lot of fun watching those guys and lifelong friendships with NBA players like Nazir Muhammad and Tayshaun Prince and Jamal McGlure, Keith Bogans, guys I still keep in touch with today.
Yeah. And then Pitino, right? You start working with him at Louisville. What's a big takeaway you got from being in his family
Wow.
tree?
I mean, he had just come off probably the worst experience of his life professionally with the Celtics, and he was ready to go. It was awesome. It was literally, I was 21 years old, 22 years old, eat, sleep, breathe basketball. The staff was incredible. It was Mick Cronin was on my left at staff meetings. Kevin Willard was on my right. Rick Pitino was right in front of me. I mean, the guys you learn from right there. It's like getting a job as an intern, at Goldman Sachs graduating college, right? That's the way I looked at it. I look back now. I mean, I was with basketball royalty. I just remember Kevin telling me, Kevin obviously coach in Maryland now. He goes, "Danny boy, listen about 10 more times than you speak. And even when you want to speak, listen 10 more times." So it was great advice to learn, and learning from those guys. And Coach Pitino was obviously destined to flip that Louisville program and recharge his career. And to say that I was part of that first staff where he kind of got his career back on track was awesome. And very thankful for him, his guidance, and for the coaches that I've developed lifelong friendships with.
Yeah. Now you, coached with Kevin at Seton Hall. You went to Minnesota with Richard Pitino, Rick's son, and New Mexico with Richard.
Yep.
And Richard, when I grew up, I was teammates with Michael
Right,
Pitino
right.
in high school, the oldest one. So I never really hung out with Richard much. But tell me the similarities that Richard and Rick had as far as coaching styles and personalities go.
Yeah, he'd always used to say to me all the time, especially when we got to Minnesota, right? He was a 29-year-old head coach in the Big Ten, and I was a 32-year-old, associate head coach with him in the Big Ten. And we were looking around, and every night we're playing Tom Crean, we're playing John Beeline, we're playing, Tom Izzo, and it was just like the who's who. I remember standing next to him during national anthems sometimes. He goes, "Are we ready tonight?" I said, "We got it, coach. We're ready." And we had a lot of success. We won 50-something games in 2 years. And he'd always say, "Well, I'm nothing like my dad." And I was like, "You're crazy." He goes, "I'm more like Billy Donovan." I was like, "You're not. You're just like your father. You're driven. You're hungry." But with Richard, I will give him this. He was his own person as well. He knew who he was. He knew who he wasn't. He didn't want to be Rick Pitino's son. He wanted to be Richard Pitino. I think that's why he's been so successful at multiple stops. As I think he's in his 13th or 14th year as a head coach, which is hard to believe. But Richard was awesome to work with. We were obviously very close in age. I had known Richard since I was working his dad's camps, right? I knew him a long time, and to be his right-hand man for a couple different years, a couple different stops was an awesome experience.
Yeah. Now, here's something I want you to do. Since you've been at Kentucky, Louisville, Seton Hall, Minnesota, New Mexico, we'll get into your head coaching job in a second. I want you to take players and parents that are listening and watching this right now behind the scenes, right? And specifically to the recruiting board.
Yep.
All right. You guys, most schools have it on a computer, on a whiteboard, depth charts, who you guys are recruiting. Now it's even crazier with the transfer portal.
Yep.
Walk me through those conversations and what families need to know, what Power 5 coaches and low major, mid major, all that,
Yep.
what they're talking about and what they need to know and how they can get on those boards themselves.
The first piece of advice is touching upon that. You have to get on the board. That's step one, and that's what recruits need to know. And you become a prospective student athlete in the 7th grade. Now, are you walking into most conference rooms and they have a depth chart that has rising seniors through 7th grade? Not so much. It's really seniors through freshmen, and you have to be able to get on their boards. That goes for a lot of things, right? I mean, what type of kid are you? Obviously, the education you're getting. Can you fit in this system? Are you a guy that's bounced around from multiple high schools? I mean, that's a red flag these days.
Is it a red flag though with all the transfers going on? Like, does that really?
Yes. Look, I look at you look at a kid. I think he just left Wisconsin, AJ Storr. I just read on social media. It's his 5th college in 5 years, but it's also his 4th. He went to 4 different high schools, so he's been to 9 different places. So look, will somebody take a chance on you? Yes, but the grass isn't always greener, and kids learn that. So obviously, being an upstanding, individual in the community, obviously being a great player on the court, and getting good education is one. And then you got to have relationships with coaches. Coaches come and go, and especially at the Power 5 level, you might have a relationship with an assistant coach as a freshman. Well, that assistant coach more than likely won't be there by the time it's decision-making time as a senior. And so it's building relationships with the whole staff, and then it's seeing where you really fit in and asking those type of questions. Okay, it is evolving. It is 1-year contracts for kids these days, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But that's the nature of the business these days.
All right, let's talk about New Mexico only because you were there most recently. All right, I know you've got so many experiences from these different rooms, but New Mexico being the most recent. With assistant coaches, right? You had, let's say, 3 to 4 on that staff, and they're each recruiting players. Like, did Rick as a head coach need to make sure he balanced out how many players he offered from each assistant, or would he just look at the best players and maybe one assistant got all the best players he was bringing to the table? Like, walk me through the politics of
every coaching staff is different. We took pride, and this kind of goes back to Big Rick's philosophy. It's not my recruit. It's not my kid. I mean, that causes divisiveness among staffs. Mm-hmm. I've seen it. So we always try to team recruit. Now, I might be spearheading a kid, but I would want the other 2 assistants to go take a look at him. Or, hey, I talk to this kid every night, Isaac Chu, who's still with Richard now at Xavier. Isaac, give him a call tonight. See if I'm missing anything. What's your vibe? So we compare notes a lot, and I think that's what's made the Pitino family tree so successful. Is there's no I in recruiting. You don't get credit for a kid if you bring him in, he becomes a pro. We all do. We all share in each other's credit because we all want to have success. So every staff is different, but that's, in my opinion, the best way to do it is kind of the team recruiting approach.
All right. So when does Richard actually reach out to the family? Is that when multiple assistants have signed off on it and said, and he's watched the film and he checked, walk me through that? Because you got that giant board with all his players and Rick's time is limited. Yeah. When does he make the call? Yeah,
he's a coach. We're down the line with him right now. He never wants to be first couple calls, right? He wants us to do the homework first. And the biggest thing is you don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste time. A, the kid might not love you back, or B, he might not be our type of kid. So once we know as an assistant coach, okay, he's our type of kid, he's definitely interested in us, now it's time to bring the head coach in. And a lot of times, we used to say kids hide behind text. Now, you make mistakes in recruiting. I would think, coach, we're right there with this kid. Trust me. I have a good relationship with him. And the next day he comes out with this top 5 list and you're not on it. And you have to learn those lessons. And you got to learn who loves your back. Or, look, we're in New Mexico. I'm recruiting a kid from New Jersey. Is he really a good fit here? Is he really going to move come across the country? So you got to find out who loves your back, who you can get, who's the best fit. And then you bring the head coach in. And a lot of times with the transfers, it moves quickly. So now head coaches are spending a lot of time focusing on the transfers, and they have the assistant coaches worrying about the high school kids, knowing that, okay, we have 5 scholarships open. we're going to take 3 to 4 transfers. We're only going to take 1 to 2 high school kids. You guys have them ready when that time happens. And so that's kind of your job as the assistant, to develop the relationship with the kids and to realize, what we're looking for as a staff.
All right, so you guys get the job in New Mexico. You move down there. Bam, you're in Albuquerque. You're a New Jersey guy, Minnesota,
Yep.
New Jersey, Kentucky. You don't have New Mexico connections.
Right.
So, and you've got limited bandwidth. So walk me through, like, how much time are you going to spend, or what are you going to do first? Are you going to reach out to local AAU programs? Are you going to find out the best players in the state? Are you going to reach out to JUCOs regionally? Like,
yeah,
how do you, like, where do you start?
Right. I've been fortunate to coach in all. I was in the Big East. I was in the Big Ten, now the Mountain West. So this adds a little bit different dynamic. And it helped me spread my wings a little bit. I'd always recruited the Texas area and some West Coast, but until you're really there, you got to learn the dynamic. So yes, most important thing is to get to know the local high school coaches, whether or not they can help you or not. It's still the right thing to do, because you never know when they can, and you never know when you can help them. You're a big deal. I mean, New Mexico was probably the best assistant coaching job I had, to be honest with you. But you are a big deal there to be a Lobo assistant. So it's reaching out to the local guys, then the AAU guys, and then obviously the JUCOs as well. So you want to cast a big net. Your first 90 days on the job are the most important. You have to come in and make great relationships. Like anything else, you want to make people feel important. You want to make them feel wanted, and you want to come in and say, look, I'm coming in here to be a fabric of the community, to be part of this area. Really want to genuinely get to know you, because that's what relationships are. Whether you're recruiting a kid, a parent, a coach, you have to be genuine. And the people that are genuine are the ones that are going to be successful ones.
Yeah, and how much of this business is based on relationships?
And it's 100% relationships.
Yeah,
100%. That's not
That's what
anything else is selling you a bill of goods. And that's what it's a relationship business where if I can help you or not, I still want to help you. I want to help kids. There might be a kid that I'm recruiting that, listen, we just recruited, you want to come here, but unfortunately we don't have a scholarship right now. Let me still help you. Let me call up a friend of mine who's coaching who has a need for a player like you. And that's what it's about.
All right. Let's say you get a job in the OVC right now today.
Yep.
You got to hire 4 assistant coaches.
Yep.
How do you do that? Like, especially with, like, let's back up first. Like, okay, everyone leaves your team. They're going fresh, and let's not even worry about collective money right now. But you once again have local high school. You've got prep school kids. You got JUCO kids. You got internationals. You got transfer portal. How are you, Dan McHale, going to divvy up your bandwidth as far as recruiting right now in 2025?
I want to find guys that fit me best, right? I have a vision. I know the way I want to play. I know the way I want to coach. I know the types of kids I want in the program, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Do I want to get some high school kids and develop them? Sure. Has the game changed where that really doesn't happen as much? Maybe. But I'm still going to recruit some high school kids because I want to be able to mentor 17, 18-year-olds. Am I going to have to get old and stay old? Yes. But I like to get some transfers that have played before, whether they've played in the OVC level. Maybe they're a really good Division II player who wants to get a shot playing Division I. Maybe it's a kid from the Power 5 that thought he was going to be an NBA player in 2 years and went to Kentucky or Ohio State and hasn't worked out. Well, now I got a place for you here at Eastern Kentucky or in the OVC. So I want to kind of spread my wings across all of them. I don't want to just pigeonhole and say I'm only going to recruit this one way. You can't do that. International, same way. Look, I've had success recruiting a lot of international kids. Sometimes international kids, they don't have it as well as some of the American kids. So they come over here and they're really appreciative because they can't believe how great this is. So it's all walks of life. That's probably the advice I'd give. That's probably the way I would do it if I got the job today.
All right. And then when you're hiring assistants, are you focused more on this guy can teach defense, this guy can teach offense, this guy's a heck of a recruiter, this guy's got prep school connections, this guy's a JUCO guy? Let's just keep it to you. How would you build your assistant? Like, what, I don't care where they're from, but like what kind of characteristics would they have?
Yeah, I think all the above. Like, who complements me best, right? Who's going to make Dan McHale the best version of myself as a head coach? I don't need guys that are yes guys. I want guys that are going to be able to challenge me. I want guys that are going to have my back. And then well-rounded guys. Am I a defensive guy? Am I an offensive guy? As a head coach, you got to be responsible for everything. So yes, would I like to hire a guy to run the defense, a guy to run the offense, a guy to be the head of recruiting? I kind of like to build my staff that way, but I want everybody involved. I just don't want to hire a guy and say, okay, you just coach the defense. No, I want you to specialize in that, but I want you to have input on everything across the program, because if all my assistants have input in all walks of the program, then that's only going to make the program better. And that's the most important thing.
All right. You a former D1 head coach. What's the biggest misconception families and players have about the D1 level?
that it's probably the end all be all, right? It's not. Being a Division I player is awesome. It is a great experience, and if it can open doors for you after graduation, then that's the game plan. How many of these guys are playing in the NBA? Fraction. How many are going to be able to play overseas? You would hope, but how long is overseas? That's probably 3 to 4 years is your shelf life. Are you going to get a great degree? Are you going to have connections in the community? Are you going to be able to go back one day and say, hey, I'm done playing. I have a degree. I was a great representative of the university. People are going to want to hire you. And whether that's at a Division I school or whether that's at a Division II or Division III school, the way you represent on that campus is going to help you when you're looking for that next part of your life. It could be coaching. It could be in the business world. It could be working at the university as a fundraiser. You never know. So make the most of whatever education you get. Make the most of whatever relationships you can make at these institutions, because more than likely they're going to give back to you when the time is right.
Yeah, love it. In your entire coaching career as a head coach and assistant, who's a player that no one else believed in that you did, and then when you got them on campus, they outperformed and did exactly what you thought they would? Like, do you have an example of that?
Yeah, I mean,
overachiever.
I've been fortunate to coach a lot of great kids. I had one story. You might know the family. A kid by the name of Dylan Avar that played at Lexington Catholic. Went to Louisville to play for Coach Pitino. I was fortunate to be very close with him as a kid. I coached him as a young kid. So to get the opportunity to give him a Division I scholarship at Eastern Kentucky, and for him to come back, and he made 52 threes as a junior for me in his first year, with wins over Western Kentucky, Belmont, Marshall, some wins that we had never done in over 50 years at the university. To see him come back for a kid that was a scrawny 5'9", 5'10", 150 pounds, kid from Lexington, for him to come back and thrive in certain situations, it was an awesome, awesome experience for me to coach Dylan.
Yeah. Good to hear the alma mater getting mentioned there. Thanks for that. I'll send you a check.
All
right. How about this? How about a player that came across your plate that you passed on or just missed that became big time? I know that happens to everybody, but is there any that stand out to you?
John Morant was in my league at the same time I was Eastern Kentucky. He was at Murray State. I remember talking to my assistants, and I'm on the bus, and I'm finally getting to Murray film, right? In the OVC, you play on a Thursday and a Saturday. That's kind of the way they paired it. And we had just played Austin Peay and lost in overtime on a Thursday night. And we had like a 2-hour bus ride to Murray. I was finally diving into Murray film. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm looking, I'm like, who is this kid? And I remember waking my assistant up. I go, who? He's like, Coach, I've been telling you about this Morant kid for a couple months now. I was like, I just hadn't watched him. And I'm like, how are we going to guard this kid? And he's like, yeah, it's going to take a lot. I remember we lost the game, but we held him in check. I think Ja probably only had 22, 9, and 9. So that was a win for us that time. So, yeah, Ja was in my league. A couple others that got away as an assistant that I was really, really high on. Donovan Mitchell was one. He ended up going, obviously, to Louisville and playing for Rick. When I was at Seton Hall at the time, I thought we could get him. But there are a lot. There are a lot, but those two would probably stand out, Donovan Mitchell and John Morant.
All right. At Eastern Kentucky, you were head coach there. What was the most rewarding part of being a D1 head coach, and then what was the most challenging part?
Yeah, most rewarding was, look, it's all your hard work. It's all the staff meetings. It's all the long days that, like I said, to be a GA at 21 with that incredible staff with Coach Cronin and Coach Willard, to fast forward to be a head coach at 35. I mean, any kid would sign up for that, right? I was just a kid from Chatham, New Jersey with big dreams that was able to accomplish it. And that's the way I look at it. I was an average player that had a well above average heart and knowledge of the game of basketball. Sometimes that doesn't always work out. So to become a Division I head coach at a young age was a dream come true. Second part of your question, that seat, move over those 6 inches, it becomes way different. I knew I was fortunate to work for Kevin Willard for 10 years and for Rick Pitino and Richard and some great guys. Sometimes it's not in the handbook. Sometimes there's things that happen that, wait a minute, I never faced this before. I'm not prepared for this, right? I'm not talking basketball-wise. I'm talking about some off-the-court things that you can't control. You have 18, 19-year-old kids on small campuses that sometimes things don't go your way. Well, now you're the leader of that group, and you have to stand tall, and you have to be able to right the ship during tough times. And sometimes you're just not prepared for certain opportunities, but you look back and you learn from it. And how can I lead better the next time I'm in a situation like that? And that's what you learn from.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So you're now not in coaching, but you're doing college placement, and you've got a new company with that. Tell us about that and how you help families.
Yeah, really excited. We started a company, a former player of mine, Jaron Cena, that played for me at Seton Hall. He's a high school coach in the area now. We started a company called Collegiate Recruitment Consultants, CRC. Our website's crcathlete.com, and it's been awesome. We've been able to help kids all walks of life, Division I players, Division II, Division III. Kids end up going junior college, play college basketball. And it's very important to have an advocate. I knew that as an assistant coach, as a head coach, you want to learn and listen to people that you trust. Everyone's going to say, look, my kid's the best. My kid can do this. That's maybe you can, but being an expert in the industry, now working with kids, I can now pick up a phone and call, whether it's Fordham University where we placed a kid or Wheeling Jesuit where we just placed a kid and say, look, this kid fits your program. I've got to know him and his family really well. First-class kid, style of play. I've watched him play multiple times. He fits the way you play. And kind of connect the dots. And it's been really, really fun. We've got a 100% success rate, which has been remarkable in 2 years. And I've been able to help, 40, 50, closer to 60 kids play college basketball with another couple hundred on the way, hopefully over the next couple of years.
Yeah, love it. Thanks for sharing that. And that's a service. You need an advocate. And right now you're an advocate who's actually been at that level and can tell, now when families say, hey, I want to play D1, everyone's played D1. Like, what do you say to that if the kid doesn't really measure up?
What? That's great. Depending upon where you are in your career, whether you're a freshman or whether you're a senior, I kind of explain, okay, you're a freshman, you want to play D1. We'll see how you project, right? You still have some growth in you. Who knows? You're young, but let's map it out. Let's get some 5 D1 schools you want to look at. Let's get 5 or 10 D2, D3 schools you want to look at. Let's get some high academic schools you want to look at. Let's cast a big net. Now, if you're a senior and you haven't been recruited and you think you're a D1 player, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to say, look, maybe 5 years ago you were, but the way the landscape's changing right now, it's harder and harder. So there's nothing wrong with going the D2 route. Your story's not over. Look at Jack Golke, who beat Kentucky in the tournament a couple of years ago, hit eight threes for Detroit, right? For Oakland. He was riding a bus playing D2 basketball the year before, and now he's a hero of March Madness. So I tell these kids all the time, there's nothing wrong with taking the D2 and D3 route. Then you can blaze your own path. And if you become the all-time leading scorer at the school, or you become an All-American at the school, or you graduate with a great degree, that's great. Or 2 years from now, you're very wanted because you're 20 years old, you're more mature, you just put up really good numbers at that level. Some D1 schools are going to look at you. That's just the way the game is changing. So your story's not over when you're 18. It's just beginning. Go where you know you can play. Go where you know you're going to get a great education. Go where you know you have a great trust in the coaching staff. That's my advice.
Are you having NIL conversations with your clients too?
We are, yes. Now that it's changing so much that you educate them, what's real, what's not real. Like I said before, grass is always greener some places. Now kids are going for the money, and I get it. Some of these places, it's life-changing. But you got to understand what you're getting yourself into as well.
Yeah. When you were recruiting and as a college coach, did you look at prep school players differently than high school players?
Yes and no, right? Prep schools have really evolved over the past couple of years, and some kids are late bloomers, or some kids are young and they need another year. So, yeah, I'm going to look at the top high school kids, but I'm also going to look at the top prep schools because some of these leagues it's like playing in college. It really is. It's like, I think even before you and I were, growing up, a lot of schools had freshman teams, right? And some of these schools even had JV teams. Even the great Kentucky team in '96 had Nazi Muhammad, who ended up being a pro first-round pick as a junior, played on the JV team at Kentucky as a freshman. Now schools don't have JV teams. So I look at that as a prep school sometimes where a kid just gets an extra year to develop, to grow, to nurture. And if he can play, he can play. Or she.
Yeah. What's it take to be a guard at the D1 level in 2025?
Yeah, you got to be able to score at all 3 levels, right? If you can't shoot, it's very, very difficult to be a D1 guard. So you got to be able to score at all 3 levels. You got to guard the position. A lot of it's positionless basketball, switching a lot of ball screens. So you got to be able to guard 1 through 5 at a lot of different places. And then you got to understand, It's a game that's fast paced these days. Everyone talks about pace and space. So getting in the best shape possible, working on your weaknesses in the off season. If you want to be a D1 guard, you got to live in that gym.
Right. During the Final Four in San Antonio, you had an exposure event that brought a lot of good high school players from around the country. You had coaches there. Like, what was your vibe? Like, what were the players thinking? What was their kind of thoughts? And then college coaches, like with the transfer portal, what it is now, what were they saying and thinking about this?
And people, I kept asking. I said, why hasn't this been done before? Right? NABC is the National Association of Basketball Coaches, over 3,000 members. You get 2,500 coaches going to the Final Four every year. It's a celebration for these guys. And there's no dead period for Division II, Division III, NAIA, and JUCO. Obviously, Division I can't come. But we threw this event at the Final Four, CRC Final Four Showcase. We had 68 kids, freshmen through senior, come to the event. We had scouting services. We had over 40 college coaches show up. It was awesome. It was really, really good. I had a handful of kids pick up scholarships, one senior, a couple juniors, connected them with coaches, and then it took off from there. And it was great. It was a great event. We're going to do it again next year in Indy. I expect to have triple the amount of kids in Indy, just from the direction we can get there. And it just gave kids an opportunity to perform at the Final Four where coaches already were. It was a 10-minute drive away. It was easy on a Saturday morning before the national championship games. We talked hoops, and it was just a great exposure showcase for kids that might not get it. And very thankful that we did it.
So you're telling me now, if a kid has the right performance at the right time in front of the right coach, you can still get a scholarship offer on the spot.
Correct.
That still exists in 2025.
Still exists. We had a couple kids that moved heads, and coach was like, "Can I speak to that kid?" I said, "You sure can," and picked up scholarship offers on the spot.
All right. That is refreshing to hear, because, that's kind of dropped off in the past 5 years since COVID, but it still exists. So I just tell families over and over again, like, you never know who's going to be in the gym and what kind of power they have. Remember the game named Charlie Givens?
Absolutely.
So Charlie, for people that don't know, would go out and watch high school games in Kentucky at people that Pitino was recruiting, because if Rick came in the gym, right, kids would play differently. But on a Tuesday night in November, if a guy in a trench coat is in the top level watching you, he could determine whether Rick Pitino is going to offer you or not, right? So I always tell kids, and you can back this up, Dan, you never know who's in the gym. Guys have, dudes out there that just blend in, that are watching you for somebody else. So you never know when you step on a court who's watching and what opportunity can change your life. So it's worth it to be a little bit paranoid. And I tell this to all my players going to prep school, like, you have no idea on a daily basis if your life will change based on who sees you perform that day. Right. Yeah, that's pretty heady and pretty big consequences.
It's awesome.
It's true.
I mean, I've seen it, and I've seen it firsthand I remember Coach Pitino with that, diving back into this, but this is a really good story. He went on a recruiting visit to go watch a 5-star player in North Carolina. And I remember he went and didn't like the kid, but right away he saw this scrappy little kid and said, "Look, I want to offer that kid a preferred walk-on spot. I want that kid part of my program. I don't care if he doesn't score a point for me. That kid is going to impact my program." Sure enough, the kid had some low major interests, right? Some low major scholarships to UNC Asheville's of the world. And anyway, took the preferred walk-on spot at Louisville. Ended up starting multiple games. I was there his senior year. And then, he made what he wanted. He said, "Coach, I want to work on Wall Street one day." Sure enough, fast forward 15 years, the kid's an investment banker on Wall Street doing fantastic. And it was all because Coach Pitino showed up at his game to watch somebody else, and that changed his life because of the way he was acting.
Yeah. And that's Javon Carter and Bobby Huggins. You know that story, right?
Of course.
This is for those that don't know, but Javon Carter was playing like at a 9:30 a.m. side court in an AAU event, and Coach Huggins was walking through the gym. Coach Bobby Huggins, Hall of Famer from West Virginia, and he was going to see someone else, and saw at this side court at 9:30 a.m. this kid just giving it his all, busting his butts. Next thing you know, that kid gets a scholarship offer to West Virginia, becomes one of the all-time greats, and made it to the NBA, right? So you never know who's watching.
He played defense.
Now walk me through this. That's right. Here's something that you brought up, walk-ons. Walk me through like the walk-on experience, right? And like you've seen it at different schools and how different coaches treat them. Right. What's your thoughts on a walk-on at the D1 level?
Just like I look at a lot of things, if it's not, you got to earn it, right? And that's the best thing about walk-ons. They know their role, especially if they know their role. Some walk-ons don't know their role and it doesn't work. They think they should be entitled. And so the best type of walk-ons are the ones that are invisible, right? That are not going to be a problem in the locker room that are going to be an extension of the coaching staff in the locker room, to be honest with you. And guys that know their role, right? I might be a walk-on at a Division I school. I might not see the court till I'm a junior, and that's okay. My job is to make the starters better, is to make the guys in the rotation better. And then when my time comes, I'm going to be ready because I've been guarding the best players in practice every day. And that's what it's about. I mean, these guys understand their opportunities. They understand it's a privilege to be part of the team, whether you're the 13th man, 15th man as a walk-on or best player. It's a privilege. But I also saw the flip side, coaches that take great care of the walk-ons. Some schools, walk-ons don't travel. I always made sure my walk-ons traveled, right? Whether or not they have to put 3 or 4 guys in a room and they're sleeping on the floor, that's fine. That's all part of the experience. And Coach Pitino, Coach Willard, and Richard were the same way. I mean, these kids are going to be part of the program. Well, we're going to reward them, and they're going to be held to the same standards. But I've seen guys who are walk-ons earn scholarships. I've seen guys, like I touched upon, get jobs after basketball because of the impact that they made on the community. And those are the success stories that you want to see.
Yeah, love it. Last big question. You've been around Kentucky a lot. Tell me about Kentucky high school basketball and what makes it special.
That's amazing. I mean, anytime everyone sees, obviously, the Sweet 16, you play at Rupp Arena, and that's just a fanfare, and you get 16,000 people on a Wednesday afternoon at noon to fill up Rupp Arena. It's an amazing experience. But then, you go recruiting like I did at Eastern Kentucky, and you go to the back roads of Kentucky, and you pull into a gym that's, I don't know, I lost cell service probably 45 minutes ago when I pulled off the highway. Now I'm in the gym. And just to walk in and just see small town atmosphere, Kentucky basketball on a Friday night, Saturday night, there's nothing like it. I'll be honest with you. There's nothing like it. And it's fun to see. The state is obviously crazed. For me, I look back, I was fortunate to become a Division I head coach in the state of Kentucky. That's a pretty awesome thing to say because it was an honor, a privilege. But Kentucky high school basketball, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Plug for the home state there. So
that's it.
Some quick hitters here. Who's the best player you've ever coached against?
Best player I've ever coached against.
Maybe the one who lit you up the most. Maybe Ja.
Yeah, I'd say Ja or Donovan Mitchell. One of those two. Definitely.
All right. What's your favorite movie?
Hoosiers, of course.
Good call. And what are your hobbies when you're not doing what you do?
I'm really into my kids' sports right now. I've got a 7th grade son, a 5th grade daughter that are just playing. My daughter in 10th grade, I kind of missed her window for coaching her younger because I was coaching. But coaching them now is really, really fulfilling. And it's not just basketball, whether I'm the third base coach tonight for my son's baseball game or I am coaching him in the gym this weekend. That's been awesome. Like to play golf. I say it every year. I want to learn to surf. I haven't yet. Maybe this is a year. Jersey Shore, who knows? But no, that's it. Just being with my family.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to touch on that we didn't mention during this conversation?
No, I just think life comes full circle, right, Corey? You and I knew a lot of the similar people that I went to school with, that you went to high school with, and then you and I kind of reconnected a little bit a couple of years ago. I think we were playing at Richmond when I was at Minnesota, and I talked with you then, and we share a really good common friend in Sean Brown, and just to kind of connect because my business is kind of parallel to your business, and we can trade stories and talk to each other about what works, what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, you and I are in the business of helping people and helping kids and helping student athletes, play in prep schools and play from prep schools into college. And we kind of work hand in hand together. So it's just a joy to be able to kind of reconnect different walks of life and see people and work together. And it's been pretty awesome. So I really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate having you on. Like you said, it's all about relationships, right? And ours kind of goes back to Matt Heisenbuttle, 1998 or 99.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so it really goes back, and it's a pleasure seeing, your progress throughout the years and what you're doing now, trying to help kids get into college, because that's the whole thing. Like, my way of getting kids into college is via prep school.
Yep.
You're doing it via your advocacy and connections you have, and that's the name of the game. Like anyone out there, like trying to do this on your own or trying to rely on a high school AAU coach, you can do that, but you got to find an advocate, someone who's connected, because like Dan just said, it's all about relationships and who which may or may not be fair, but it's just the reality, right?
100%.
So Dan McHale, join the podcast. Thanks so much for joining. And if you guys like this, be sure to subscribe on all the major podcasting platforms. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe for bonus content. Sign up for the newsletter at prepathletics.com, which comes out once a month, which has all the latest in the prep school world. and I answer everyone's email that comes to me with questions. So feel free to reach out if you got any questions on the prep school world of recruiting. And Dan's contact information will be in the show notes. So Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Cory, thanks for having me, man. Have a great day.
All right, we'll see y'all next time on the Prep Athletics Podcast. Take care.